Hello, and welcome to Claire's World. I am Claire, and today I would like to share with you what I've received in my last hypnosis session. This was a BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing session that I did with my friend Lorrayne. And this is a session I did not expect to have because if you watch any of my previous videos, you know that we are expecting a takedown of this planet. And the takedown, we were told based on the timeline, was supposed to happen in July. So I did not expect to have to do this session, and I am instead here. So I would like to tell you what has transpired since the last session I did, where the 25th dimension had confirmed the timeline again. Now, many of us were wondering the 25th dimension might not be aware of time. They might not really understand time. There is no time really at the 25th dimensional level. Time only exists as an idea that we've introduced into the game, this matrix game that we live in. And so we wonder maybe this was, and I apologize for the computer shaking here. My cat decided she was going to come and visit, which they're always welcome in my world. All right, so so a lot of us having focused, myself included, in fact, myself first and foremost, we're expecting this takedown to happen in the first half of July because we had been told that the timeline had accelerated from this takedown being expected in 2023 to the summer. And this hasn't happened because what's today? Today is the 15th, and we're still here. A lot of us started jumping at the bits and getting into battle mode, as I said, including myself. And I became really upset. I felt like a fool, and I don't like to play the fool, not even if it's my own information. I don't like to be played like a fiddle. And so I started questioning everything. Now, if any of you are familiar with this channel, I always question everything. But in this case, I went through everything. And I'm like, okay, so what is going on? And I had a few days when I was really upset. You will notice from the series of videos that I'm about to put out that a lot of my questions were actually quite resentful. And a little bit whiny too, in some ways, I realize now in hindsight, but quite resentful because I was tired. I want to move on. I mean, there was really nothing left for me to do. I would wake up in the morning and be like, oh, we're still here. And the whole day I would find myself saying, I don't want to be here anymore. And this is because a lot of us, and I know it's true of myself, have been very, very bored here. Everything just seems so repetitive. Like, there are no lessons, no new lessons that we're learning anymore because everything is just the same. Everything works the same. We've done this. We've incarnated here so many times and it's all the same, basically. But what happened, and I should have noticed that, I didn't notice it, but I didn't know it was related to actually what has caused the timeline to shift, which again, I will share with you in a moment, is that I was actually the very last few days before my last session, and the session was done on July 7th, I started feeling differently. I started feeling more excited. I started feeling more interested in my reality. I'd really been elsewhere, like my mind was just elsewhere for months, even years, really. And it was in the last few days before this session, I started feeling interested in things again. Like, for example, I picked up painting again, which I hadn't done since I was a child, really. I don't even think I was a teenager when I gave it up. Maybe I was, a tween ager. And so a lot of things that had held no interest for me started coming to the fore again. Now I find myself, for example, doing things I never thought I would have done, which is like unpainting furniture. I didn't even know this was possible. I know I'm probably the last person to know. But all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm excited about my life again. And I realize I'm not the only one. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Now, this had not transpired in the questions I had asked. So you'll see. But you'll see that a lot of the answers from the 25th reflect this And apparently it wasn't just me. I wasn't the only one going through this. So again, you're gonna find out in a moment what I'm referring to. But before I move forward, I do wanna say one last thing. When I was down, because I was upset, I was too focused on this timeline. And so I felt when it didn't happen as planned, as described, I felt like a rug had been pulled out from under my feet. And again, I felt almost deceived in a way. And I was asking myself, I mean, did I just want to believe this or whatever it is? I realized that, well, first of all, a lot of you, and I am so grateful to have found this community through this channel. This has been by far the best experience out of all of this. A lot of you have had such a mature and self-reliant view of things. And you've reminded me that, which I was aware of, but again, I was upset. So I wasn't thinking straight, that the 25th has given us so much information about the world, the planet, the multiverse, our reality, how our reality works. So it is unfair to all of a sudden throw out the baby with the bathwater, in the sense of saying, okay, because this timeline didn't happen as described, all of a sudden nothing else the 25th has said has any value. And I'm very aware of this, okay? And so, and absolutely, it is absolutely true. The 25th appeals to those of us, and there's no judgment, we are no better than anybody else. However, there are some of us who have wanted to know that it's a game. Some of us are no longer satisfied with playing the I'm better than you game. Our entire reality on this planet has been based, in fact, in the multiverse, because aliens play exactly the same game. And though we like to think that they're better than us, they might be in higher vibration, absolutely, but all essences are equal. They are not better than us. But we have taken it to an extreme on this planet, this game of separation, where we have to judge others, have to judge ourselves. And because of that, we always have to feel like we are special somehow. This has caused so much violence, so much darkness on this planet. We know this. It's the same, you know, to use an extreme example, is the reason why a lot of wars or genocides have happened, because I'm better than you, or you're better than me. None of this is true, of course. At the same time, this is what transpires, basically, the information we're getting from the 25th, which is we are all equal. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to do anything to be better. And it doesn't matter what you do, as competent as you might be, as light as you might be, you are no better than anybody else. Good for you if this is how it makes you feel like you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, you're happy. Whatever you do is singing to your souls, it's making you ecstatic and excited about life. It's all good. But it doesn't mean that you all of a sudden are better than others. And if you recognize this, this is the recurring message in our entire reality, including the spiritual world out there. This is the only place where we're being told it doesn't matter what you do. You don't even have to be of the light to be better than anybody else. And this is very liberating for many of us who are tired of this pretension, of this game, of this judgment. And so there's been, and this is just one example of the many, many messages of unity and compassion and understanding that the 25th has brought through. But I even forgot myself. And so I want to thank you guys, because a lot of you have reminded me that, one, we only take what resonates. This is not a cult. This is not a place where someone, in this case me, tells you, okay, here's what you gotta believe. Here's how it is. It's not my personality. It wouldn't be for me to even do this. I pass this on as is such an amazing message for me, because I have wanted something more. I just wasn't getting this in other places. And finally, I've connected on my own and received this information. And I know that if you've been attracted to this channel, you needed this information too. You wanted this information. The 25th, actually, and you'll see it in the course of the session, refers to it. And truly, when I think about it from a 3D way, what are the chances? There are millions of videos put out every hour of every day on YouTube. Just on this channel, I have, I don't know, 250, 300 people. What are the chances you would find this channel in the first place? It is impossible. It's like hiding a needle in a haystack and say, hey, you're going to go find it. These things do not happen by chance. Whatever it is that is resonating with you about this is resonating because you were needing an answer. As the 25th always says, it's about the question. Once you ask yourself a question, all of a sudden you don't know what answer is going to come, because it means that you open yourself up. Every experience we have is happening because we wished it to happen. Our higher self is always in charge and control of our life. You might even be upset about something, and still, why did this information come to you? Just because this information came to you doesn't mean it went to anybody else. So the question is, why did you run into this information? What is it that you were looking for? What does this mean for you? So I'm going to leave. I could go on and on about this. I have learned so much. The truth is, I am so grateful because of this delay we've had in the timeline. There's a very good reason for it. Again, you will find out in a moment. I am grateful because I have had another breakthrough. I have learned something else. One, again, and I knew better, and I've said this before, but then I fell for it. I was too focused on one date or one range of dates, one timeline. And so I felt like I was not in charge. This was something happening outside of myself. And two, and we know better. We know everything comes from the inside. And two, because I thought that from the beginning, I was hesitant to share a timeline because, again, I was afraid that some people would focus just on a timeline and then be disappointed. And again, apparently I was talking to myself because everything, of course, out there, the reason I was afraid is because I already knew everything is a mirror of your eternal reality. I knew that I would have been one of those people. It's like, oh, this person said this would happen and it hasn't happened. All of a sudden, everything they're saying is nonsense. And I did that. I did that to myself. And again, I had to go back and rethink things and reanalyze and go through and be like, okay, what have they given us? And of course, I already knew that. And even then, I was so disappointed that I was only focused on the fact that it's like, yeah, but we're still here. And so this has taught me that it's all right. The world did not come down. And literally, in this case, the world did not come down. So what that we changed the timeline? Not the end of the world. Nothing happened. I still am very much know and am aware of what I know. I do not doubt anything. If anything, I am even more sure of what is happening. I know because I have now gone inside. I don't go to the 25th as an external reality for me anymore, which I was doing. I go inside and I realize the 25th is me. I am the 25th, just like you are the 25th. We're all connected at all times, whether we want to know it or not. If you are watching this channel, you probably have already had this breakthrough where you are the 25th. When I get this information, it's not coming from the outside. It's coming from the inside. This is stuff we all know, lying right below the surface. And all of a sudden, I don't have to wonder. This is like the voice in my head, if you want to think of it this way. This is me. It's just this higher version of me. And again, it's a higher version of you that speaks to us and that reminds us of the things we do want to know, because we only allow into our conscious what we want to know. If this is coming, whatever it is that resonates of it, doesn't have to be all of it, can be a tiny little thing that resonates with you if you're watching these videos, is because you've been searching. And you can even hear it and reject it, but you wanted to run into this information. So again, why? All right, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to start reading from the transcript of my session, because I seriously am so excited about this. I have found I am just so excited lately. I've had the best couple of weeks of my life. Today, again, is the 15th that I've had in a long time. I feel re-energized. I feel ecstatic. I am content. I am happy. I have not felt happy. I could not remember the last time that I felt happy, and I am happy. And nothing has changed in my life as in, again, an external factor. The happiness is coming from the inside. And so I'm very, very excited. And I'm going to share this. I'm going to read from a transcript when I refer to Lorrayne. I'm speaking of the hypnotist, again, the BQH practitioner, who's asking me questions I prepared in advance of my session. When I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means that the answers are coming from a 25. So without further ado, when we start a session, they always, before we even start with any questions, they always send me an image and a message that is the most important thing they want to let us know. In this case, of course, the most important thing is why we're still here. We should have been gone by now. So here we go. So this is me. There is an image they're showing me, and they're showing me that there is chaos, like a swirl, like a fast spiral, a swirl in the matrix. They literally showed me almost like there was a man, a profile of a person. And there was this huge spiral, was probably this tall, so maybe half the size of this man. It's almost like with a pen, you're doing a bunch of spirals, and this is what it looked like. So again, there's a swirl in the matrix, and it's almost like the game has been reworked, and everything is spinning very fast. And because of this, the game has now changed. And so there are a few things that we have to rework here. And actually some essences are coming back into their bodies to help us rework this. Not a lot. They're telling me that it was, 80% of people had already left from the second group, and that's a group going with the aliens. But now it's 76% actually. Some of the essences have come back. And they have come back into their bodies because they had left. They're telling me that 10 to 15% had left their bodies behind. 10 to 15% of the group that had gone with the aliens had left their body behind. And so there is this percentage now, this 4%, that has come back into the body. They're trying to help us finish something. There is something that must be done now. What does it need to be done? I don't know what it has to be done, what has changed. And this was me asking because I am so aware, consciously aware of my connection now that even under hypnosis, I can ask my own questions. So here's the answer from 25th. So I asked, what does it need to be done? They're telling me they came back to do something and saying, well, what has changed? And so they're saying, so we did not believe that this was feasible. We did not believe that it would be of interest even, but that it would be feasible to finish certain things in a 3D way. But now we realize that it is, and that it will actually help give closure. And so there are certain things from a 3D perspective that we want to see. We actually want to see. And this has come on the back of, as a consequence of the new spin that's been given to the matrix, where things have accelerated. And because things have accelerated and all the games have been reworked and set up with a new vigor or with the new impulse, this has actually affected us too. And because of that, a lot of us who were just ready to leave, no matter what, were leaving behind. Now we are wanting to see what really could be done from a 3D perspective. And this is part of something that we will bring. It will be a big lesson for many of us moving forward. And in fact, we did not think that some of the essences would come back, and they've actually volunteered to come back and help us finish this. Not that many, but still some. We did not expect this. So this is, because I know you're all concerned with the timeline has shifted. We actually don't have a clear idea of how long this is going to take now, but it's not too long. It's not going to be a decade or years and years, but we don't actually have a clear timeline at this time. We would recommend to check back in as things progress, but it just depends on how quickly we can accomplish these things. And we are referring to things that have to do with, we are actually seeing the government's weakening. And we are thinking of, for example, the Dutch protests and so on. And while this can be accomplished at an essence level, We're actually interested now for the sake of all of us, but mostly for the sake of some of us who need to see this. We are mostly interested in seeing this played out in a 3D way. And therefore, we're coming to an apex, to a climax, if you like, of what the 3D, of what this reset, of what the darkness basically is coming to clash against the essences. Whoever is left saying no. And that's where we are right now. So I wanted, before I move forward, this is a lot. There's a lot here. They do explain much more. They go into detail. They break down a lot of these pieces, and I will have some of this in the next few videos from this session because they keep bringing up what's happening. But I did want to explain a couple of things in case you're not familiar with this, because in a sense, they're assuming that we know some background. One is, and I have not checked when this happened, but I want to say it was a couple of months ago. I had this, again, during a session. They showed me that Source had given a new spin to the matrix. It looked almost like one of those spin toys. And basically it had been tapped and it started spinning really fast again. So the matrix, the game had become sluggish, sludgy. And it had everywhere, not just on this planet, it had to slow down, okay? And so what happened, Source had given it a new spin, and this had a new impulse, and this had re-energized the entire game. They had already told us, again, over a couple of months ago, that this was affecting the entire multiverse, not just this planet, in the sense that a lot of games had been, again, re-energized, revitalized, and so things were not as dense anymore. I did not think that this would affect, I did not put two and two together, that this would affect us, but it's interesting because in the TG group, in the Telegram group that we have, that a lot of members in this community are part of, I have seen some people comment before even I'm doing these videos today. So before they even knew, I have not shared any of this. I've not told them why the delay happened. I've seen people comment, 2 or 3 different people comment about a week ago saying, I feel like something has shifted today. It's interesting. Yes, it has. And it has hit us. Basically, this new impulse has moved a lot of things that were stuck forever here. And you will see from the rest of my questions that a lot of things that have been stuck for decades on this planet have all of a sudden, out of nowhere, nobody even knew this was possible, they've come unstuck. It is incredible. And so I can relate here to where they say, we didn't know this was even feasible to make these changes. That's why all of a sudden we're like, whoa, this is possible, let's watch it, because it's giving us closure. And again, they're saying this is not gonna last years and years and years. It's not. It does depend on us. That's why they're saying, come back and check with us, which I'll be sure to do. All right, I think the rest is pretty straightforward. Again, there's a bunch of layers to this. They will go more into detail, so stay tuned. Some of it will come in the next few videos because I'm going to break this up so it's not too super long. But I can tell you, I am so excited about all of this. It just feels very empowering. And again, empowering in the way that I've not felt empowered in a very long time here. All right, so Lorrayne, thank you. Is this to assist those going off? And she's referring to the fact that we're staying here and that we're learning this big lesson from staying here longer. Is this to assist those going with the off-worlders as well as those going to New Earth? I know the off-worlders are going to be going on to civilizations and other games. Is this information that they need to assist them as they go forward? Me. Actually, all of us were left behind. So yes, including these people going to New Earth. There was always a question of lack of closure because it didn't really matter, as in a lot of things didn't matter. We have discussed the fact that many are not interested in seeing governments collapse completely because we are just not interested in building, in rebuilding, in focusing on rebuilding something new. Our attention is mostly gone from this plane. At the same time, now, because of the new impulse that has changed all the games within the matrix, not just the game here, Something new has come up that is of interest to several essences. And so now the essences are saying, well, we know we're taking this down. We're still taking this down. That's still the end game for us. Nothing has changed. I mean, most of our fellow brothers and sisters have moved on already, and we're not interested really as essences in living in a world of NPCs. And also, we're not interested, obviously, in necessarily going through the entire collapse, because it would take quite a bit of time to rebuild everything, as you know, basically the old infrastructure is crumbling. There are not even enough people to fill positions to maintain the infrastructure in place. But at the same time, this new impulse that was intended by Source, was given by Source, has now caused this acceleration, has caused, if you like to call it that, a twist, a tweak in the game, a new spin-off of the game, where some people are now thinking, oh, wow, this is new. So what can we do with this? This is not something, this new experience is not something that's going to keep us occupied for a very long time. We don't want you to think that the plan has changed or that this is really going to make a huge difference. However, for some of the essences, and not just the ones going with the aliens, this is now becoming actually interesting again. And if you noticed, there are people now talking about these things. Also the fact that Q has come back. This is not so much because of Q, but it's showing you that there are people who actually are thinking, oh, wow, there's still something fun now happening here. So people who were bored and have been bored, all of a sudden have this new interest in what's going on here at a 3D level. And this is a reflection again of this new version of the game. And again, it's not a new version as in we are restarting a new game. We are not restarting a new game here. However, all of a sudden, you know, it's almost like you have a line, a straight line, and all of a sudden you have a twist in this line. It's a plot twist. And so we are wanting to explore this. And we are not going to take it again as far as see everything collapse in some kind of dystopian future where nobody can get anything. We're not going to explore the dark sides of it, as the dark would have liked us to do, like, for example, food shortages, that kind of thing. We are not. The essences that are left are not going to allow this. The essences that are left have very high vibration. And so we are just wanting to see what we are capable of doing at a 3D level in terms of manifestation, taking down this entire system that's been going on forever. We finally, basically, the light is finally getting the upper hand and we are kind of enjoying it. This is a first for us in a very long time, and they were laughing here. And we're just having fun with that. So even though we do want to go, we decided that it was worthwhile to stay a little bit longer to see this play out. Lorrayne, we can savor it for just a little while. And the 25th was laughing. Me, that is correct. And a little while, again, it is not clear at this time how long the essences will savor it, but it's not going to be, again, we're not talking about years and years, but it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, it might be a few months. It is not quite clear right now. It really is up to the essences. As we said, we did not expect at all, and they were laughing here, that some essences that had already gone would come back. And again, it's a small minority, but this was unexpected. There are a few essences would actually come back to see this through. And this is the beauty of this game, is that at the end of the day, it is up to the essences. Everybody can do whatever they want. Now, a lot of the essences that have left have absolutely no more interest left in this. And they see no point in coming back to then leave again. They have no interest. They've moved on. They have no interest. Even though there is a little bit of or a more interesting twist to this than what everything has felt like for the past many years, which was just like a slow descent into madness, it's not really enough of a stimulus for them to change a plan. However, for a few of the essences that had just recently left, they were like, you know what? Let's see. We do want to see more. We want to get more of a closure. We do want to see where this was going to go, was going to take us in terms of the changes we put in place here. At the same time, again, this is not changing any long-term plans. At the end of the day, most essences are not interested in coming back here. And really, there are very few essences even incarnating here at this time. We've said this. Essences are not really interested in coming here anymore. We're still waiting to leave. So nobody's really meaning to recover this game. But as it stands, it's kind of become a little bit interesting. It's almost like you're in a hospital and you have those computer screens that show, you know, almost a flat line. And every once in a while, you have a little bit of an uptick in the line. We didn't expect this, but this is what's happening. We've had a little bit of an uptick to where we're like, oh, okay, now that's interesting. Because you can probably relate to this. Many of us have felt that really nothing interesting and worthwhile has been going on here for a long time. It was all the same, more of the same, more of the same, and we weren't going to get any closure. We already know we're taking this down. What's the point? Except that all of a sudden, things have started moving very, very quickly. And we've explained why that is. And all of a sudden, some of us are like, oh, wow, this is not as boring as it has been. And they were laughing here. And so all of a sudden, we're kind of like, oh yeah, okay, fine. Let me just see what happens a little bit longer. That's it. This is all we're talking about. And again, a little bit longer. We are not able to define it right now because really each essence is choosing how much of this it wants to see. And again, it's not going to last. Essences go through experiences and lessons very quickly. We don't need to see this all come to fruition in our years in terms of, you know, we have new governments and whatnot. We're not rebuilding. But I think many essences are interested in seeing more of the development in terms of the actual collapse, but not in a negative, scary way necessarily, more in a way where you kind of know what comes next, meaning that you know that more of this is going to happen. And therefore, at some point, basically, you would have a completely new society if we stayed here. But yeah, so we're just going to look around a little bit longer. That's all. So there has been a delay, but again, we're not talking about years. It is not quite clear how long yet, but we do recommend checking in with us again because we'll have a better idea in maybe the next month or two. And again, I will do this. But I do love the part here, I just want to highlight this, where it totally makes sense to me that we've been the underdog as the light team. We've been the underdog forever, basically during all resets, except for the first one, which we did. So we've had 5 resets here. 4 of the last resets have been done by the dark, and things have been getting more dire and more dire all the time until we come into this last reset, and we all know what that has brought. And so it makes sense to me that all of a sudden we're like, wow, the light's actually making inroads. The light is actually winning, is getting some things right. We're actually, for the first time, able not only to counteract, but also to get the upper hand. So I'm like, yeah, we want to see it. Now, we had many of us become resigned to the fact that we wouldn't see any of this. We're already being told we're not going to have disclosure about, for example, what's really been going on the side of the dark, you know, the rituals, the sacrifice, et cetera, because that is too dire. Nobody needs to know that. We already know it at an essence level. There's no need to live through it. So a lot of us have kind of given up. Again, then Q disappeared. Really, all the fun that we were having, the hope that had been brought in from Intel in general, is kind of dissipated because nothing was really getting better. All we hear is more and more the same, especially what we've seen in terms of mandates and restrictions and all kinds of abuses that have happened during the last 2.5 years. So I'm starting to see that we are winning some battles here. I can see how a lot of us would have been like, oh, wow, let me look at this. Which again, is not going to go on forever. I can see that. I mean, we're not going to be that enthralled for too long. I mean, I know myself, and I know, I mean, I was excited when I saw that Q posted again, and just because it was a break in the routine, right? All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, anything interesting happening? Why would he come back? But at the same time, and then we've heard about the Georgia Guidestones. All these things are actually interesting again. Whereas before we're like, yeah, but just nothing is changing. All of a sudden now we're like, maybe something is changing. So that's, I can totally relate from a 3D perspective. I'm feeling it at an energetic level, intellectual level, what they're saying. This is why this resonates for me. All right, so Lorrayne, thank you. So I know here in this game, when people are about to exit, the essences are about to leave the physical body. Very often, hours before that happens, there is a surge of energy, a new surge of enthusiasm for life. That's what this feels like right now, that we have come to that surge of new life before we exit. So leave on a positive note. Me. That is actually a perfect analogy. That's exactly what is happening, is that this is not changing anything. We all know what's going to happen in the end. And again, it's not that much longer, but all of a sudden, our attention is brought back to 3D as opposed to having been gone for all these months. We've basically pretty much been out of here mentally and emotionally. And now all of a sudden, we're focusing back on this. It's almost like taking a last look at what you're leaving behind. And for many of us, that's actually important. Lorrayne, I agree. And again, before I close here, I wanted to say one thing that they mentioned that I think is important is that, and I'm not going to break down all the math for you now. We can do it in the comments if you're interested. I actually did the math again when they said the second group of people, they had told us 80% of people going with the aliens had left. And we've seen that a lot of people have been missing physically, but then they told us 10 to 15% of these people going with the aliens actually left their body behind because there's been an issue with the transition. And again, we'll talk more about this in future videos. I'll give you all the lowdown of what's happened, why that's happened. But still, we're talking about 600 million people have left the planet. We started with only 2 billion bodies. 600 million bodies have gone. Now, we have been told that 4% of those people that had gone with the aliens had come back. But there's still a lot of people that have left. And again, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because no matter what, and again, this is why this makes sense to me, no matter what, people have left. And we see this. There are people asking for workers everywhere. There are no workers. Where are the people gone? We have so many, and again, we talk about this often in the Telegram group. We have so many proofs that people have left, physically left. Like there are less people on this planet, okay? But this is important because even the first group of people, which was about half of the population, that has gone to the 3D chambers and they've been gone for a few months now, and they've only left their NPCs behind. We as essences, as the last few people who are here, we're probably a couple of 100 million people left here at this point, really who have an essence in them. We are not interested. You cannot run a planet like this. As essences, we will not be interested in interacting with NPCs all day long. So this is why all of this does make sense to me. But I am going to, this is up to you, as I always say, take what resonates, leave the rest. I'm not trying to convince anybody or persuade anybody of anything. I'm sharing this information because this has been a comfort to me. This makes sense to me. And not only, but it aligns perfectly with everything else that 25th has said before. The fact that essences are in charge, we decide what happens, what doesn't happen. The 25th is saying, yes, we were surprised. We didn't think that we would stay, we would find something interesting. But then again, we didn't even think that some people who had already left would come back for a little bit. And so this is all interesting to me. That will give us more details as to why this has happened and to how it's happened. So if this does resonate with you, stay tuned and I'll have more for you soon. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.